Sound's gone again.
Lost the sound.
But I just wanted to say that I appreciate being here tonight. I hope I can be of service and help you all assess any risks that you may have, concerns. NDOT's role, the part of NDOT that I deal with, which is capital programs improvement, our role is to simply provide stewardship and guidance oversight to help move these projects that are federally funded using taxpayer dollars through the process. We help make sure everything is in compliance. And so I look forward to helping you all find a solution. This is really a unique project, as all trail projects are. It's had a very interesting evolution. I think if there perhaps would be some understanding of the rigorous process that's had to go through to get awarded funding in the first place. The competition for these stellar funds is, and the program still is, very competitive. And there was a lot of hurdles to go through and a lot of advanced planning that may help explain to how we are where we are today. So without further ado.
Let me interject here that this meeting is being recorded, and if you're online, you're given your permission to have the meeting recorded, and please speak, state your name and your address when you're online, and if you're in the room, so that we can record all that effectively. Thank you very much. Jenny?
Yes, so originally we were gonna have this meeting and take a look at the last time we did a design modification that we were hoping to submit to NDOT's team for review. We've had conversations with Mike and Jamie since then and some other folks at NDOT. And so part of one thing I want to do is first update you on that, and then we can, follow up from there. As I've asked Mike to be here as well, because Mike is in the process of having made some of these changes for us and looking at different parts of the route. As you know, we were hoping that we could narrow the width of the trail and try to have less impact on some of the right-of-way in this area. But first, two things to understand. We were looking at narrowing that trail to possibly 7 feet throughout. That doesn't meet the minimum requirement. So we are looking at feet. Secondly, though, at this stage that we're at with NDOT, we would have to take that newly designed trail, whatever changes, and submit those for their review. Usually at this stage, you don't make changes like this unless you have correct me on the phraseology, a geometric problem that has to be solved on the route.
Usually driven by topography, perhaps some historic or archaeological features that are in the way. I think in this case, what I have learned is that perhaps we have some setbacks that are a little bit tight there, so that is what is driving the looking further at an 8-foot width on this trail. Now understand that the optimal desired, the guidance is 10 feet. However, in this circumstances, you are allowed to go down to 8 feet on this trail. Now, in those design exceptions that she's talking about, due to some of those issues, which are usually driven by geometrics, in this particular case, those types of geometric constraints are simply not there. They're not present. The right-of-way is cleared by the town. There is nothing preventing an 8-foot trail. Because that's what we're going for at this point, as I understand. There's nothing preventing that from being constructed. due to a geometric problem that would need to be solved. Anything else, and you get into data-driven impacts that point to some potential safety issues or things of that nature. ADA compliance, maybe. So that's where we're at with this. So when I had a fuller understanding of when I heard a change is coming, I tried to understand what the impacts would be. And I knew that I had to take this to a higher level, and I did. I went to the Technical Advisory Committee, and they're also liaisons with the ADA compliance officer. And also all of the design review engineers, and they took a look at it, and that was the information that came back to me, and that is what I am sharing with you today.
So if we make any change to the original design where we were working with 10 feet through parts of the trail, and then we went down to 8 feet in other parts of the trail, if we were pinched on right of way, now if we submit 8 feet all the way throughout, it'll be up to this committee to accept that or not. That's essentially where we're at.
And
throughout that corridor on.
yeah, let's be clear about the
Yeah,
project.
Street.
This particular impact is between Marmot and Winfield
Yes,
Street. Yeah.
south of Marmont was already 8 feet
Right.
because of some geometric constraints.
Right.
This section was 10 feet, except for the small portion where that road kind of curves, because one of the parcels kind of stuck out and there wasn't a lot of setback for that house. So that at that point, we couldn't get the required tree line buffer and the 10-foot trail, so it got pinched down to 8 feet.
Mhm.
But
So the upshot
now
would be an 8-foot width throughout that
Throughout.
stretch of the project.
a lot of that section would come down to 8 instead of.
And still be in compliance. There would be no risk to federal funding.
So the other thing that we might discuss with regard to that is we can still bring some of the road width back on the opposite side of the trail through that section, so it's not quite as expanded out as the original design, and that doesn't risk not meeting requirement as well. So what we need to do is take the 7-foot modification we thought we could try and redo it and take a look at it then and basically submit
Part
that.
of, the issue with some of the increased width is the most of the street is 20-foot width, but there's a section in there where it goes down to like 14 feet, which is safe for two-way traffic. So as part of this, we did the 10-foot travel lane minimum through that section. So that's why the roadway got a little wider in that area, going to 14 feet.
There was some discussion at our last meeting also about perhaps modification for the lawn buffer between the trail and the
Yeah.
curb.
We talked to Jamie about that. I think the minimum requirement's 3 feet,
It is.
correct? And that was when we did the 7-foot design, we did put 3 feet in.
Okay.
Although where there are
Currently, we
areas
had-
it doesn't exist because of a geometric issue or.
The one point we did have to have the sidewalk, right up against the curb because it is only 8 feet wide because of that constraint.
Mhm.
But most of the other spots we had a 3-foot lawn buffer and then a 10-foot trail. So it's going to come in, it could come in 2 feet on that side away from the road.
Yeah.
That's what I
But I think the original design, we had some 4-foot lawn space in there. So that could be
Yeah,
three,
it varied a little bit.
right?
We can cut it down to a consistent 3-foot.
But yeah, that would be on their end and the. So,
So what you're talking about, excuse me, what you're talking about now will most closely resemble what was originally proposed, except that the trail itself will now be 8 feet instead of 10. The impact to the property owners will be much the same as the original trail.
the 10 feet would be 8 and the 4-foot lawn space would be
So we can.
so 3 feet. When we did the 7-foot version, thinking we might be able to do 7 feet, It still had 7 feet trail, 3 foot lawn space. So there is a foot
Well, I thought
difference.
the lawn space was disappearing.
In some areas, it doesn't exist because it doesn't fit, like Mike
But
said.
in the area where the drawings you submitted to the people on South Plymouth Street earlier this week, that lawn space has disappeared. And the trail, I believe, was abutting the roadway, with no lawn space.
Yeah, I
Between the
think-
trail
I
and the roadway.
think that part will still not, it won't face, kind of where the roadway is being shifted, that we didn't have room to have that buffer. Once you get a little farther north, where kind of the bottom of the hill flattens out, that's where we have plenty of space. And we'd have the 3 foot lawn.
So there's no drawing of what you're talking about.
We-
The 8 feet, no.
No, we haven't had it come up with that since we just kind of, even this morning, getting comments and talking with,
Dave, please state your name and address. Excuse me, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Please state your name and address for the recording.
422 South Plymouth Street.
Thanks, Dave.
So Mike, the area he's talking about is where there's that parking issue at Randy and Joey's property, where the road goes like
Yeah.
that.
so
Well, all of the people in that stretch are very detrimentally affected with the parking issue. Most people are losing a whole lot of parking. Unfortunately, Randy and Joey are most dramatically affected. So we're very, very concerned about that. That's a huge issue to us. I think last week Dave presented a document that 85 people who have been polled were allowed to submit their opinions as to this program and the issues they had with it. That document was submitted to the council. We haven't heard anything with regard to that. Again, I think the citizens are feeling marginalized, as we have from Dave Dock with this. For the folks that are new to this, the nice lady in Dock, until just a few weeks ago, those people most grievously affected by this, who acknowledged that this was coming? It just fell out of thin air in our faces. And this has huge impact on quality of life, on property values, on parking, on all sorts of things. And that's the issue that we hoped we were going to be able to pragmatically address with the council. But again, and I hate to sound overly dramatic, and I hate to point fingers at the council, we have once again been marginalized. And there are a lot of people feeling very grievously done by this action. We don't see the need for this thing. We don't see the need for this recreational venue to be run through residential neighborhoods. And as it does run through the residential neighborhoods, we submitted a white paper last week, which shows in great detail a lot of research and a lot of public opinion as to the adverse effects of this. And we really, really would like to have that addressed before this project moves forward. I very much, and so do all the neighbors, appreciate the work that Jenny has done. And I'm going to say this point blank, and if it offends anybody, I'm sorry. Jenny is the only person on this council who has made any effort whatsoever since learning of how we feel, how the city is doing. Jenny is the only person who has reached out and made any effort to mitigate the damage to us. We haven't heard from anybody else. A white paper was submitted to each and every one of the council members, and to this very moment, they have not bothered to reply. Our issue is with the issues that we presented in that white paper. And again, I hate to beat a dead horse, but once again, we're marginalized by this. We don't want this thing in our neighborhood. It doesn't belong in a residential neighborhood. We weren't advised of this thing. We weren't consulted. And I know you put a ton of work into this thing, but the people affected, and you can poll people in this room, and 85 people which had already responded to us, so they knew nothing of this. And all of those 85 people are very much against this. We've had one person say they were in favor of this project, 85 against it. And it's for those very reasons that I think you've had the people here to discuss. Over the past couple of meetings, Randy, for one person, has tried to stand up and talk to the committee. He's angry, he's frustrated, as are everyone else that's affected by this thing. And to be honest, he was shut down. He wasn't listened to. We haven't been listened to. And I think that's the issue. And if anyone wants to disagree with me sitting in the room, please do so. But we've got a lot of documentary evidence that says we've got a lot of problems with accepting what the council wants to do to us.
So you have raised a lot of points there. The only one that I would like to correct right now is that I have been with the project from the cradle. I do have some knowledge of the development and perhaps both more than perhaps I do have a good understanding of both sides. And my best advice to everyone is to try to keep an open mind on this. I will even go as far as to say that if you came into this meeting with your mind made up, that perhaps it might have been a little premature. That perhaps there are issues that haven't been fully data driven and researched. Perhaps there are things that both sides have not considered. But I do have to say also that at this point in the development of the project as it moves forward, we have a letting scheduled for this project in July. We really do not have the luxury of a lot of time. And that is the reality. When you look at the cost, and I'm not talking about just the financial cost, I'm talking about impacts in general. But certainly cost is one of them. You really do need to put a dollar figure on that, what you're talking, and in terms of time to delay. Let's just talk about construction. To delay letting on a project right now, it's not going to bode well for favorable bid prices. That's just an example, sir. That is just an example of something that perhaps somebody hasn't looked at.
I'm terribly sorry that we're a little late coming to the game. And perhaps if we had been apprised of this and given knowledge of this and invited to consult and give our opinion.
Do you want to sit down?
Yeah. We sitting there at the 11th hour, having just learned of this thing, being upset. I take the point now.
I'm sorry, but there was a comment, I believe, there. But that was my reaction. It wasn't to you, sir. There was I thought I heard a comment.
I'm Joe Flores. And based on we're gonna look on the parking again, trash.
Oh, please speak up.
What about us? We have no parking. You know, how are we supposed to figure out parking? Well, not money here. We don't have. To put parking, you know, the only parking is right there in front of our house.
Well, I have not, in fairness, I can't respond to that issue, hearing it just, at first glance. Without full background, and I would never respond to an issue without knowing.
Cool spot in the road where it like kind of jets out that property where they park vehicles there.
It's our own.
And there's an alley there, so you're off of the alley, so you can't park anywhere. Off the
No,
alley
there's
beside
no
your
parking
house.
set up. It's just in the front. We have a garage.
You don't have a garage or parking.
It's on the
other
back
side.
end of the property, and you can't get your car in there if you want to.
So
That's it.
the parking's basically on the street and right away. I don't know what the rule is for the rest of the city in general, but that's, what she's referring to there. So with the trail there that goes through where they currently park the cars.
Their house is very close to the road.
That was a pinch point that I was mentioning before, because the property and the house is much closer to the.
They are at that pinch point, like you say.
And we were looking at if we squeeze the trail down to 7 feet without lawn space in that particular block. I don't know if it's really considered a full block, but that there's 2 or 3 homes right there, that it would be enough that you could, the alley goes like this, the road goes like this, if that trail is 7 feet, there's a room between the trail, the house, and the alley where you can pull into the alley, take a left and park there, or you can come from this side and park in like this from the opposite side of the road. So we were looking at that, if we could switch that area to the 7-foot design without lawn space. That, I think under all the designs, probably did not have lawn space there even to begin with, because it's that would be considered a geometric issue from the get-go with their
I
property.
still think we can use the 8-foot trail to get a car there, because the road is kind of coming across and the trailer doesn't go even as far as what the existing edge of the pavement is. So I believe, so I have to look at it again. But I
So
thought when we talked about that, there is
I would
still-
say that being said, that would be appropriate to evaluate for a design exception. But that also being said, I want to make clear that that is not a promise that can happen. There's going to be several things looked at. But if you wanted to retain that, but we don't, like I said, we don't have a lot of time. If that's the case, Mike certainly knows what he's up against as far as getting that in. I'll do what I can to expedite a review, to actually get a response as early as I did today on some things was.
Yeah.
You know,
So, I mean, that
An
an
achievement.
And look at it.
that
because
particular block is tricky. I mean, it's tricky even at the original design.
I was at the field trip. I've seen the
Uh,
plans.
she's-
I actually drove it
she's
again
driven it
tonight.
too.
Their house is that yellow
There's no
house.
substitute for walking a project and doing an actual on-site inspection. You know, you can have your GIS maps every day, but to actually get out there.
So Jamie, if we submit that section as 7 feet, it would go through design exception review. But even if we submit at 8 feet in the other areas, we're gonna be getting a design exception, right? Or is that a different?
No, not for
Okay.
We just have to
8 feet's
submit.
8 feet
okay,
is
so
the
we can just do
minimum.
the 8
It's
no
just a
matter what.
submittal, with the plans that we submitted for the final submittal before construction had 10 feet. But with the process, we can make changes to those plans and still get it in before construction.
Okay.
We can get those in the next few weeks, but that's just a change to the plan. And that's 8 feet is not a design exception, so
So
can do
just the
that.
7 would
The
be
7
a
would
design
have to be the
exception. That's a
separate
separate
approval.
review.
yeah.
So could we conceive of we do 7? There's from alley to alley, their house is alley, and then there's 2 houses in another alley. That's where we were looking at squeezing the most. We
Then
wanted to go to 7
That
in
would look
there.
at the justification for wanting to make that change. And
They're gonna look for
I've
geometric justification versus a parking justification.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So we could submit it, they say no, we go back to 8.
Absolutely. But I think they certainly understand the need to be cooperative and transparent, respectful of concerns, and NDOT will look at that.
Okay.
You know, but I do not want to lead anyone down a primrose path. That doesn't help any.
It really affects us financially too. On the value of our house, and if I'm parking, how much the value of our house is going to go down. We have that done, and we're looking at least $10,000 value of our losing parking.
That type of, you need to be careful when you're putting a dollar value on damages or proposed impacts too. I mean, those are,
Well, that's how much it would cost to lay a slab.
right, but
to
you,
pick up two parking.
yeah, but you understand that they would be looking at data, estimates, hardcore plans, proposals, if it would get that deep.
But
They're just,
I mean, it's common sense tells you lose your parking, the value of your house goes down. If I were to put my house on the market and I have no parking, they're gonna go to the next house that has parking. You know, people aren't gonna wanna park 2 blocks away to walk home, you know. So, I mean, that's just common sense.
Why is it she can't get into her lot from the alley, from the back?
Well, our house is very close to the alley and the
I'm
road.
guessing which house it is, having been through there a couple
Yeah.
of times. So,
And then there's a little strip there, and then the alley's just a mess as it is right now. I mean, it's flooded all.
the alley runs, I'll say, parallel with your home, kind of at maybe east
Right.
and west. There's no alley on the backside.
No,
perpendicular.
it actually stops, and because it doesn't, the alley doesn't continue on.
And has it always been that way?
Yes.
Yeah.
The house has been there, it's, I don't know, they aged it at, 1900. I mean, it's been there that long. Yes.
Hey, hi, I'm Patty McCormick, and I live at the corner of Hawkins and Plymouth. I think the elephant in the room, first of all, Jenny, thank you for meeting and giving us information. Appreciate you and Karen, the information you both provided. Why did it cut over and come down Plymouth? And I think Jenny and I may have had a discussion. Why did it not stay down Main Street? And I know that's a question for you. I want to understand why it veered over and came down to residential.
I have to add to that, Jenny, what happened to the proposal that you were going to propose? That it would be taken up to South Main Street? That's what you told us, that's what you told David.
No, I thought if there was an option to paint the road, that.
You told us that at the council meeting, you were going to bring it up, and you did not.
But I
We feel
also
like we've
told
been
you
lied
that
to by
changing the entire route was not likely an option. Like, I've said that in public 20 times over, because I know what stage we're at. We're going through the same thing on phase 3, which is in a much earlier stage, and even changing that route has been something that we started with one. We had Academy input, feedback, please don't bring it down Academy Road. So we had to go get permission to get the other route. I wasn't trying to lie to you, Jerry. I just said, maybe we can do shared road space somewhere in this. Now, early feedback on this route, we did have input meetings. So we had early feedback. We had merchants who did not want to give up parking on Main Street. We also have a lot of right of way on Main Street. A lot of those property lines come right up to the Main Street Road and into the road. Whereas, so we even looked at Ohio Street, which is even further. We thought, okay, that was actually the first one we looked at with the same issues. So then we went and looked at Plymouth Street, and there was right of way all along Plymouth Street. So generally, if you're going to look at a route, it's easier to do it if you've got right of way and there's a clear path and you're working with engineers advising you on that. So that's how we ended up looking at Plymouth Street.
I understand what you're saying.
On Main
I
Street,
understood what you said then, but you lied.
Jerry, let's state your name and address for the record, please. I'm sorry, go ahead. I understand, but since you're speaking. Thanks, Jerry.
I do know that, my old house is on Main Street. And from my property line in the front to the street is less than 7 feet. That's including my sidewalk. If you look at it, it doesn't even take a full mower to go across the grass area that I've got. And you couldn't make that stretch of Main Street any narrower. That's why Main Street, because all of those houses are the exact same size.
You've also got a considerable amount of some historical and some very unique properties and assets, and that needed to be avoided.
Yes, sir.
My name is Mike White. I live at 662 South Main Street. Couple questions. I don't know if you mentioned there's a couple meetings going on up here, but I was wondering why this trail isn't outside of town like the rest of them. And two, I was wondering on South Main, is it still going to be 10 feet or is it also going to be 8 feet?
10 feet.
Yeah, I think the idea when we were doing the master trail plan, which all started before even Stellar, we had done a comprehensive plan and we did what's called a 5-year action plan. And when we were working on Stellar, next level trails was coming out, or grant dollars coming out for trails. So we decided, well, we should have a master trail plan, because when you apply for grants, if it's not in a plan, you get points if it's in a plan. There's an actual input to that. So we did some input sessions at the library. We had people come in with big, huge maps on the tables, looking at, well, where is it not safe to do trails? So like a lot of people said, East Shore Lane is way too narrow, or this spot in town was. So we did meetings for that. Out of that, we developed a master trail plan. So then you start trying to fund that master trail plan, and that went into our Stellar plan, because when you apply for Stellar, NDOT and Okra and some other state agencies pool money, and if you win Stellar, you get that money. And part of our Stellar plan was to do a Lake Max trail route. Now you can't fund that many off of just Stellar funding. So we thought we'll start with phase 1. Well, we didn't win Stellar the first year, so we went ahead and proceeded with phase 1 on our own. The second year, we did win Stellar, so we put phase 2 into that plan. Phase 3 that you may have seen some news on, that's over coming out of the park on Academy Road, that's also in the planning stages. Phase 3 was a separate grant outside of Stellar that we applied for with NDOT. So if we weren't to do phase 2, for example, or even phase 3, we'd have to pay back grant money, as I've explained in other meetings, but we also would risk not getting funding for any of the phases. But the idea was to have a loop around Lake Max. So at some point you have to go through town to do that. And for people to be able to go on and walk, people walk all over town as it is. We also had a plan to put a trail on State Road 10, because we kept seeing people walking to the dollar store, Ace Hardware, and it's quite dangerous to walk along the highway. So that was also in the Stellar plan as part of this Jefferson Street to State Road 10, and then this loop around Lake Max. The idea was connect your assets. So make sure you get people to places safely, whether it's the school, the new housing on Jefferson Street. The reason you see that path coming down Jefferson Street was to connect all that new development to downtown Culver, to the path that's going down your neighborhood. And then eventually, as part of the regional Stellar plan, which is another Stellar plan that the county did, we want to connect that new development to the school as well. So that will be a residential trail going toward the school from that housing development. So the whole plan of that trail plan was, how do we connect places people want to go in Culver, the park, the school, downtown business, uptown business, etc. That's where it all kind of originated. Stellar works for a couple of years. NDOT implements their projects over a much longer period than Okra. So that renovation of the Beach Lodge was also a Stellar project. The Cavalier Park, where you see we put in a playground, we fixed the soccer fields, we put a trail around the soccer fields, that's a Stellar project. All of those projects went through pre-planning phases, and we did lots of public engagement on those. So that's where Jamie's saying we did do some engagement, and we did advertising, and then we also had a public information meeting.
Talking too much.
2019. And I've referred to that as a public hearing. It's really a public information meeting. NDOT does not require you to do that type of meeting. We felt we should do one. That's how we try to do all the projects. So what I've been trying to explain to several of you I've had one-on-one conversations with is we've gone beyond the requirements to try to engage the public in all of those projects. And we got a ton of feedback on them, including this one. And you still, even if you plan a trail, you might find out you don't have enough right of way to do it, or you've got to move the route. But you do that early in the process, not in year 4 of the process. when you're about to go to bid. So that's what's, a couple of you were upset about the timeline at the last meeting. At this point, we risk everything by not meeting those timelines because we're really late into this process.
Randy,
Kim Hamilton, we're at 308 South
Had all
Plymouth. And
Just a minute.
309 South Plymouth.
Just a minute.
People down there that's
on the
trail itself, don't know anything about it. We didn't know anything about it until about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Nothing. Not one thing did we know about this coming through our property here. Not one thing. You're saying you had all these meetings, all this stuff. Why wasn't we notified about it? That's actually on the trail. I don't know who went to that meeting. These people didn't go to the meeting, didn't even know nothing about them. Why weren't we informed if we were actually on the trail? I mean, the people up on Ohio Street and up that way, maybe they went, but they aren't on the trail. We knew nothing about it, and we wouldn't have knew nothing about it until they started tearing the road up, if it wasn't for somebody accidentally seeing the plans of it. It's all by accident that we even know anything about it.
Well, the only answer I can give you is we advertised in the newspaper, we advertised on TGL, we advertised on social media, we did quarterly newsletters, we posted on the website, we did blogs, and we had it on every single agenda. For the last 3 years, we've had stellar projects on the agenda. The newspaper reporters have covered all of it. Yes, could we have written individual letters in hindsight? Wish we had. But we do a lot more advertising than we're even required to do, and that's what we did. We did get input from people. Some of your neighbors did come and look at the plans. Jamie was at that meeting.
You can do more. But
Right.
your agendas are not on social media.
let's
Big mistake.
identify ourselves, please. Online.
My name is Kelly Bodner, and you're so far not ready to close this deal. I completely agree with every single one of you that a bike path is needed. One, not in the Simler's yard, I can tell you that. Not appropriate whatsoever. This gentleman has done more for this lake than anyone I know. Anyone. When I was Lake Mac president, when I worked on that committee for 4 or 5 years, this gentleman helped me out. He gave so many anonymous dollars. And if this gentleman doesn't want a bike path in his yard, I'm going to support him. And I will do everything I can to do that. If we can find another route and how to make this possible, I am all for it. I do not want it in his property, and I will do everything in my power not to make this happen in his property. But I think you guys are doing a great job. I wish I could help more. And I found out late about this meeting, but I want to thank all of you because it is a good thing. And I think Lake Kentucky is a slice of heaven, and it is the greatest place on earth. I will die there. So
Would you please restate your name again, ma'am?
my name is Kelly Bodner. I'm a past Lake Kentucky president. I work with Jerry Simler on many organizations and boards. And I just think we need to zigzag. I love your plan. I think it's a great idea. I just think we need to zigzag some way. This property does not include his property because he does so much for our community. You have no idea. He is that anonymous donor. Well, I probably shouldn't say that, but at least for me and what I do for Lake Max, I don't want to see this happen. I love his family. Their family's my family, and it's just not right timing for this family to have this happen in their yards and in their home. And I just think that we can zigzag around this and make it right and make it easy. But that's all. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Project.
Kelly, thank
Okay.
you for saying that. Thank you. Jenny, thank you.
We really we really appreciate that.
I
And,
just mean that, you know, that
we-
one person that always
we-
gives to everything.
Online.
We are a our
We're a
family
community,
strongly
you guys.
support-
We love each other.
Please state your
Nobody
name.
does counting down.
This is Kim Hamilton.
Kimmy.
And
Mrs.
I'm
Hamilton.
at 308. Yes. I'm at 308 South Plymouth, 309 South Plymouth. And then the other empty lot. And we really support the project. We think the project's awesome. It helps promote the Lake Maxinkuckee, and we love Lake Maxinkuckee. We're very supportive of the community, not only the community, but the
I know you
environment. The environment's so important. The lake is important. We have to be good stewards of the lake, but we have to be good stewards of the community. And that is supporting the downtown and promoting it. And having it run through residential streets isn't promoting the Culver. It's not promoting it. We need to promote Culver and promote these businesses that make Culver what it is. Going
Agreed.
in, walking to downtown, going to those restaurants. We need to support them, not going through residential areas. It needs to be the safety, not only of our own family members, but other people walking, but it's also the bikers. That's not safe for bikers.
Okay, Kim, Kelly, thank you for your comments. We need to move on.
Thank you for
And so,
listening.
no, okay, I can just tell you,
Thank you. That's
with
enough.
this, we have to move my dad has been so generous. People go through
You have no idea,
affectionately
Kim.
call it the football field.
We're
have to
moving on.
move
Thank you.
all of that stuff.
Thanks, Kimmy.
I guess I have a
Thank
question.
you, Kelly.
Thank you very
About
much, both.
Changing the route to go to Main Street. We did have merchants who did not want to give up parking, but we have plenty of people who have said, why not advantage the business district? My understanding from what I've learned in the past week and a half is we cannot change the route at all. I think that's just off the table, which
why are we here?
Why are we here?
I don't
You can
know.
tell by your attitude that it ain't gonna change nothing, no matter what we say in here.
When I came into the meeting, sir, I had no knowledge that changing the route was even on the table, because that was never presented to me.
Well, 3 weeks ago, we didn't even know there was a trail.
That was the purpose of this meeting.
Yeah, that was the purpose of the whole meeting.
My understanding with us, the issue lay with the width of the trail. That is
No.
what
No,
was
we want to get
presented.
rid of it out of it should not go through a residential. It should not anywhere,
I just don't
So
know.
that's
not
what I was
at
trying to
all.
say. The bike trail, the rest of them are out of town,
Right.
all the way down 31. The rest of the trails I see are outside of town.
Put it on the outskirts of town.
There was a lot of public engagement that was done through the different planning processes.
Right.
Stellar, the trails plan, both for Culver and for Marshall County, and the quality of life plan that was done. It looked at a lot of different areas that contribute to quality of life, and trails rank consistently among the highest of all those for all of the communities. There's hundreds and hundreds of people that submitted input on these, and
So
that's why there's a trail, and to connect around the lake and to connect West Shore Drive with the downtown and the park, this is the route that made sense.
So who are these people? You say hundreds of people that put in stuff. It wasn't on the street it was going on. Nobody knew about it down there.
So
85 people did not know about this
So
trail.
if we
till
could get
2 or
back,
3
if we
weeks
could get
ago.
back to the scope of the project, I would like to say that it's hard to armchair evaluate a proposal that goes on the outskirts of town. I don't know what that even looks like to even begin to assess that. I think that's pretty easy to understand. I also know that when it comes to trails is that they have to make sense. They have to be logical, which means they have to have a purpose and a need. And in this case, it is connectivity, it's economic value. What are some of the other criteria that was looked at?
Safety.
Safety,
That was one of the reasons Plymouth Street, there was no sidewalks along Plymouth Street.
Mhm.
And this was
I have
an
a sidewalk
opportunity
in
to
front of
get,
my house.
but it's not connected to either side into the town.
And
So this was an
connectivity,
opportunity.
You
to
could
fix
still
that.
connect it if you go on the outskirts of town.
That's what the street.
It would take.
And who, on whose right of way?
Pardon me?
On whose right of way?
The towns, I would imagine.
The town, it doesn't have outskirts of the town right away. I don't know what you're talking about.
How are you taking it down 10?
You have to get permission from the state if you take it down a state road, and the county if you're on a county road.
Mhm.
So for example,
So that
the
was either-
phase
There was no
three-
right of way acquired on that project.
Right.
Right. And
That was either
phase-
all county or state right of way by permit.
Yeah, with phase three, when we wanted to go down Academy Road, State Road 10, or even now, north on the railroad quarter out to Sycamore into the country, come back toward the lake. You go to the county and you say, can we work in your right of way? So in the town, it's our right of way already. And on Main Street, we just did not have right of way. We also had feedback from the merchants. No, we don't want to lose our parking on the main drag. Parking is a huge issue for the merchants.
So it is for us too, which I sent you an email saying that we brought that up.
And I'm not sure that I don't think any of us have said no parking on this road. So I don't know to what extent parking on the road will be an issue, whether it's 7 feet, 8 feet.
But the trail is on our side.
But the road also expands the other way. Like Joey, we don't.
So you want us to park on the other side of the street, to walk across to our home? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm
No.
saying that when the trail goes in, the road still has to be 10 feet per lane. Like currently, part of the road is 14 feet. In some places, it needs to be 10 feet per lane per requirements. That's how we engineered the route. So that's why it's going into Patty and Colleen's side. It expands out that way into the right of way. So it's not like the trail goes in and your road doesn't get wider.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand. So
I'm thinking maybe
you
you're
saying that-
visualizing the current width of the road plus a trail.
are you
And
saying-
that's extremely constricted and that's not the reality.
Well, are you saying like you showed me on that, where you've got the trail and then there's space between that trail and our yard? Is that what you're saying?
That's potential for parking, but so is road parking. So
So
I
you're
think-
saying we'd have to park next to the trail on the road and then go across the trail? And then you have, who knows, driving by or riding by their little bikes and whatever and possibly running a stick
There are
along my
people
car
all
or
over
something.
town who park next to a sidewalk and walk over the sidewalk through their yard. I mean,
But you don't have bicycles
What about that grass?
on the
I
sidewalks.
have bicyclists on my side of town, that dogs walking on all sides of town
But
are
they're in the street.
bicyclists.
They go past our house too, they're in the street.
But you just said.
Right,
you got
and
But
the
should
street
they
is
be?
not safe.
10-foot
But should
lanes
they be
that
in the
you have
street?
to have
Our street,
traffic,
there's
but
nothing
tell me
there
that
to,
go ahead and park
So if
in
there's
that
nothing there in the
10-foot
street
lane.
now, then what makes you
That'd be
convinced
the
that there's
town
gonna be so much more increased on the sidewalk?
because it's a trail and it will be advertised everywhere. And they'll go online and see where the trail's at. And if you want to get it close to the lake, why don't you go down around my block there and go down towards the lake and come out,
Down Hawkins.
down Hawkins,
Great.
and take it to those millionaires.
Take the other side where you're.
Take it to the millionaires' houses down there on the lake. Huh?
There's not enough right of way.
You have to buy people's property in some places. I was told that $1,000. No?
Yeah, that was kind of a weird way that some of the things were recorded on Main Street. It was actually the parcel across the street that owned across, it cleaned that up, so it wasn't taking like into people's yards. It was taking what would be the.
But you
normal
go through
right
our
of
yard, but not millionaires' yards. You would pay them $1,000 for right away.
Why,
Jenny,
Nope.
just so I'm
why can't it
clear,
go down the alley?
still gonna be gone from our section.
That's what we're gonna try to submit. It doesn't mean we can promise you it'll happen. NDOT has to approve anything we submit.
Okay, we have a
Why
question
can it
here.
not go down the alley? Why can't it go down the alley?
We've got somebody in here.
I'll keep it short, I promise, for a change. I have a quick technical question. Between Marmont and Winfield, you said we are right now a restricted road. We're at like 14 feet, and you're going to make it 10 feet with the path, and it's going to be one-way traffic, right?
No, on Plymouth,
Yes, I'm
No,
on 519.
two 10-foot travel lanes.
We're going to have a 20-foot road there.
Yeah, so it's 20 feet on either side, like north and south of that section. So now it's just gonna be an even 20 feet through, which would meet the town standards and minimum allowable travel lanes. And that's the same as the original design.
This is my wife, Lily.
He's further south on Plymouth.
We are south of this situation on South
Okay.
Plymouth Street.
They're south of Winfield.
Yeah, they're south of Winfield.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we're on a
okay.
different part of South
Gotcha.
Plymouth Street,
Yeah.
but we're affected
So-
also.
I think all it's for where you're at, I don't know all the addresses.
That's
exactly,
okay.
But right now you have the
Fence
curb, a
line.
tree lawn, and then the sidewalk.
Yeah,
currently?
from our fence line, we have a sidewalk. I think it's a 2-foot sidewalk, and then we've got like 2 feet of grass in our road. That's like, from our fence line to the road is only 9 feet. So I'm just not sure where you're getting these feet from.
That is, it's only, I know it's not between Davis and Winfield, it's
Right.
only 8-foot trail, not 10. So basically that,
We
with the
are-
tree lawn, it's gonna be curb and then an 8-foot sidewalk, not having a tree lawn and a 4-foot sidewalk.
That road gonna be 20 feet in width?
We're not changing the road, it already is 20 feet south of.
Had varying road widths in that area.
Right.
That's not uncommon, for any.
That's one of the
Area.
concerns is that because it is a path and you have bikes on the same path as pedestrians walking. Walls, stopping at stop signs, turn signals. So why are they on the path? They have people.
It's a
That
designated.
was just one of my very questions.
We have
But-
like some-
Most likely, you know, a
Bounce out.
high-speed cyclist or commuter cyclist, they'll be on the road. But
Okay.
having kids on, you know,
On
families
the
going
road, that
out,
makes sense.
kids,
Sure.
they'll be on the sidewalk and having that.
So
So you've got modes of transportation too that I think would be helpful to just remind everyone that it's not just bikes, it's strollers, it's.
yeah, but they're not going as
Other-
fast as a bike.
Yeah.
The cyclists that go
I
down,
get the whole deal, but you know what I mean? Like, I understand. But my question is just like, I've got drainage issues right now. Walk is an issue. Are you gonna put drains in?
You know what, one of the, not to avoid your question, but I just have to bring this up. You know, one of the biggest risks on any sidewalks or trails is now these days, and you're not gonna be surprised, is cell phone distraction.
Oh,
You're at more risk of injury, and that's driving too, but cell phone distraction, and it's not trails and sidewalks, it's streets, nobody's paying attention, parking lots.
I mean,
I mean, to put it in
question.
context,
What was your name and address?
I have a question. This is Kim Hamilton again at
We have-
308 South Plymouth.
you have another speaker, Kim.
Why is it not
Kim, we
going
have another
down
speaker.
the alley? With all the
so
flooding problems that we have on Plymouth,
we were
they keep
concerned
saying that they're addressed and they have not been addressed.
is only
I mean, my
not part of
son at one point
Is that gonna-
rode the kayak across from one house to the other.
Let's,
I wasn't sure if
let's,
that
Bill,
was just staying on the south
Let me
side.
get
some order.
come on.
We actually, we did bring a small change that wouldn't affect the width of the trail, any major changes. But that might address the parking issue for our house in particular, just for you guys to look at. But I was just trying to understand the geometry of the path on our street. When you brought up one-way traffic between Marmont and Winfield, I wasn't sure if you were addressing us. I don't think you were, but.
It's not one way anywhere along Plymouth.
Oh, okay, great. Well, that's fantastic. So it's gonna be a 20-foot road and then 8-foot path and then right up to our fence line.
I believe so, yeah.
I'm not trying to make a dig here. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
All right, I don't have any fiery speeches today. That's
Is
it.
there parking on both sides of the road?
Whatever it is currently.
Okay, because right now there's no signage, so people just kind of do as is and,
Yeah, we weren't changing.
okay, okay. And this is gonna be lifted off like inches?
I think
Like
that's
a
a curb.
Okay.
Curb and a sidewalk, curb and a sidewalk.
Okay.
Jerry,
Hello, hello.
just a
My
minute.
name is Chris. Can I speak now?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Kristen. My name is Kristen Carroll, and I also live at 308 South Plymouth and 309 South Plymouth. And I felt like you guys were being extremely rude to my sister who was trying to ask a question and cut her off. I would like to have a better understanding of why you can't go through the back alley. You're encroaching so much of our property. We have tons of little kids that run back and forth on the street, and it's not safe. And I think some of you are being bullies and ramrodding us, and we have a right to say what we feel. I want to know why we can't go through the back alley.
One reason you can't go through the back alley is that at 452 and 450 South Main, there is no alley. Those properties.
It's grass, and there's an easement there, so yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Behind, you know, that would,
But there is an alley. It's not an alley.
yeah, there's no alley there. It's been abandoned. If there's an easement,
Yeah,
but
Then go through the easement.
He's talking about.
You're encroaching so much on our property. There are 28 grandkids, 6 great grandchildren. We have lived at the lake for 20 years and have supported this community. And this does not belong in a residential area. It's not safe at all.
no, it's fine.
Thank you for your comments. Kristen.
Well, I'm not sure that this is really getting us anywhere.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a
Because
question. If we're gonna just ram this through anyway. What's the plan for all the vandalism and the litter along the trail?
Yes.
Who's gonna clean
I-
that up in the outside?
That's-
I don't wanna go out and trash all the time, things around. Or wipe stuff off, you know. Write something nasty.
I would
Is
say
Culver
that
really
the-
that kind of a community? Because
Yes.
that's never
No,
been my
no,
impression.
no.
You
Come
know,
down
walk
South
around
Main.
When I
right
come-
now, all the
Look at the
nasty
first
stuff.
section.
And I don't mean to minimalize if there is an actual,
There is.
People
Issue.
litter, it doesn't matter if you live in a small town or a big town,
Yeah.
people are small.
Every once in a while, there's always
And they're
stuff in my
rude.
yard from bikers, people walking, I don't care what it is.
So yes, I think that's a legitimate question that we all have, because we don't want trash and.
Will there be
vandalism.
trash cans along the pathway? Will that help
Actually, yeah,
minimize?
that's not a bad idea.
You know, I literally just yesterday saw a golf cart drive by and throw orange peels in my front yard. Traffic issue.
And the other thing is still there, no matter if you have a trail or not.
Yeah.
It's just, that thing, the broader plane is gonna make it worse sometimes.
It's just gonna bring more location.
And in the middle of the night, we will have pedestrians walking on that trail. Drunken pedestrians walking on that trail.
If you notice something that's not right, call the police. I'm serious about that. If something's going on that's, you think is not right, call them. We have police here 24/7.
I've gone out to my car and like 1 in the morning. And all of a sudden, I said, hi there. There's somebody standing out in the street while they're walking. along the
Right.
street. We don't get more of that.
Yeah, just
We
this
don't want
summer, I had
That's-
two boys, I have. 11 o'clock at night. And I looked out.
These people are a bunch of bullies.
Thank God. And then my neighbor the next day had air let out the south.
Okay, everyone. I think we're done with this for the night.
One more question. Are you going to plow the snow off the country? And who's gonna mow the 3-foot grass, or whatever it is in between?
Yeah.
Who's gonna, the city gonna mow that?
What is the maintenance situation on one?
Currently with phase one, we do snow removal. We don't have, it's all through park, so doesn't have lawn space, I mean, it gets mowed through the park.
Mhm.
But the sidewalk ordinance, when we put a sidewalk in, like safe routes to school sidewalk, the homeowner maintains the lawn. We don't remove snow in residential areas. Trail we do, we have. I think our plan was to do that, but with even the current trail, it's after the roads are clear, then Bob's crew clears the trail in the park. We can do the same policy or we can go with a different policy.
But normally, you
But
know,
we don't.
terraces
mow
are moved by the
Terraces.
Who mows between the sidewalk and the street? Is that the
Citizen.
homeowner?
Citizen,
citizen,
the homeowner.
That's been the case when we put in safe routes to school sidewalks as well.
Is the grass always on the roadside? That strip of grass, is it always gonna be on the roadside?
That's the purpose.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Right.
To like
Yeah.
break it
Right.
up, but I'm just
No, I just want to
wondering-
make sure you're visualizing what you're seeing what I'm seeing.
So if
Okay.
a kid's on a bike and they fall
Into
into
the
the
grass,
terrace
yeah.
instead
Right.
of the road, essentially is why that's put in there. Even with the like a normal safe routes to school sidewalk, you still have like if you go down Academy Road where we put that sidewalk in, we also did Lake Shore at one point in Ohio Street, you'll see terrace on the side of the sidewalk.
One really quick question. Okay, if you're on South Main Street, why didn't you design it so that the edge of the path is like right at the edge road, then you can come in the 10 feet instead of 10 feet grass road?
Because you have to have a buffer between the trail and the road, especially there because it's a higher speed roadway. We want to have that buffer of grass, it's for safety reasons.
Good question. Thank you. Okay,
If we're talking safety,
So that is a good question because, you know, design a trail
South-
every day or just every day and
Yeah.
that's, all questions are good. That's a good one.
if we're talking safety reasons, South Plymouth floods and it continues to flood.
Oh, yeah.
That's the drainage.
It's
that I was
bad.
talking about.
It's-
we will
Okay,
be,
but it affects the bike path.
we will be addressing the drainage along Plymouth Street. Right, Bob?
Okay, but you have said that for years. We've lived there 20 years. And it floods every single year, multiple times. So it is still a problem that you say you've addressed and you haven't. So that is a big safety issue. Another reason that it should not go through South Plymouth.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment. All right, we're gonna,
Who was that?
who was that? Last
Kim
speaker?
Hamilton. Kim Hamilton.
Yeah. Thanks, Kim. Got it. We're gonna close this part of the council meeting and we're gonna move forward. Bill is not here yet, so we will move on to citizen input, but we're not gonna readdress what we've been
Can I ask
talking
a
about.
quick question though?
Who's speaking, please?
My name is Jeff Semler, and I'm curious if any of the input you've received from all the people that aren't very thrilled about this trail. Do we have any? I mean, it sounds like this thing's already a done deal, and you guys railroad this thing through. So, do we have any input or and voice our opinion? Does it matter?
Yes, that's what we're doing tonight. This is not being railroaded through. As Ginny has
Okay,
said,
but I'm saying that because I feel that way.
well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, sir.
Well,
And you keep saying that you can't change the route. So I agree with Jeff. I feel like we're being railroaded.
Oh, could I,
Yep.
Change
between the.
If I could I take just a minute to
Sure.
try to address that? It may not entirely. We need to look at the impacts of changing the route. The first one is there is not, if you attempt to change this route, you will definitely be losing every dime that you've spent on this trail. There simply isn't enough time, and you can't move these over all these stellar funds. It's a
And
process.
don't you think you should have communicated better?
You should have done a better job communicating this to the people.
Ma'am,
Yes.
I'm with
No.
NDOT. I'm with NDOT. Could I finish my thought?
Oh, yeah.
Because I was
You bet.
I was trying to address the scope of the project and why this, and the question of the alternative as best as I can, and not really go into the transparency issues. Back to the trail. To change the route would involve changes to the environmental document, be needed and approved, right-of-way, new survey. I mean, you're essentially starting from scratch. Project development on something like this is 3-4 years minimum.
We don't care.
And you
We don't care. We don't care.
$250,000. You don't care.
There's enough taxpayer money on this lake.
But the question is
We
it
need
better
to
use
make
of the dollars
sure what
for
we're
the trail?
putting in is the right thing.
Now,
It promotes the city.
I just can't. I won't even go. I won't even try. Yes, it has. All of the bid documents have been approved. The project is letting in July. I could briefly go through where we're at. This is the publicly published letting prep schedule for July. Right now, we're at ready for contracts, so it's in there as of 5/5. It's pretty much on its way. Documents will be posted, and then the job would be advertised the middle of June.
So can anything be changed? Tell us the truth.
What we are looking at is a revision on the plans, which can be changed because that does not affect the route. That's not affecting the alternative.
Reduce some of the
They're
10 feet to
looking at
8 feet.
reducing widths in the area of concern.
Why weren't we notified?
Randy, actually,
I think
We- yeah, we-
that,
we
I'm
said
sorry
we
if you
tried
didn't
to
understand
look
next
there,
steps
but-
on this, but yes, that is,
Again, it's not parking, like, count for what.
it might not raise to that level of the geometric justification of issues.
Is there any way you can change these?
Yeah, I do that.
If it has to be paid, if it won't go. Show me how we're gonna have parking.
Can I ask a question?
Probably afterwards.
Okay.
And
Just help get an understanding.
so you.
Can I ask a question, please?
Talking about, correct?
someone else
You are
is
the
talking.
property owner of the
Yeah,
house
we-
that you're
we're-
at?
we're-
Okay,
we both own it, yes.
okay, thank you. Did you want to take that? I don't want to run your meeting over,
No,
because I know you
wanna
were
go
going to
ahead
wrap
and
it up.
Answer that question. Somebody just wanted to make a comment online.
I'll ask,
So,
gentlemen, whatever request he has a comment. Do you want
There was a
to see what the
gentleman
nature is?
Oh, someone had a question. State your name, please.
Jeff Semler again. You guys, I had to unmute myself, but it sounds like this is a done deal. So is it, you said the May 5th date, which is tomorrow? This has, all contracts have to be approved, so this has basically been approved?
What we are entertaining.
I guess it's a simple yes or no question.
What we are, I can tell you what we are considering. What is being considered is reducing the lane widths of the trail at this time.
But you're not altering the path of the trail then, is what you're saying?
That is correct.
Correct.
That is correct.
So all our input was basically worthless tonight.
The input as far as
That a lot of people around the lake didn't even realize this was happening, and now we're voicing our opinion, and you guys don't care.
This,
Jonathan
Talked to
spoke with him
Jonathan about
over the
it
past 2 years.
2 years ago.
You're
You see, Jonathan,
you're putting the past in front of the people of Culver.
This is, to me, is a waste of taxpayer dollars to begin with, because I don't think we really need one.
Yeah, there's a road around the wall, that's the fact.
well, this has been going on for 4 years and all of a sudden.
Well, this is the first we've heard about it, so it's been poor communication on your part, but we're now having an opportunity to voice our opinion, and you guys don't care.
We certainly do care. That's why we're here listening.
Well, I understand that, but it sounds like from my listening to the conversation, this is a done deal, it's been rubber stamped, and you don't care.
You're fighting the townspeople here, Council. I mean,
We un-
You're getting us more anger at the minute because you're not listening to us.
So do we have any common ground on this in terms as a benefit? A benefit?
That's on South Main. If you put it on the other side of the road and not disturb anybody's property, that would be better. Other side of the road. If there's nothing on the other side of South Main. Just a field. You could put it on the other side of that road. Yeah.
You've got garden court in the middle. What you're talking
There's
about.
nothing in front of that place.
I understand, but
Everyone has to cross
Yeah.
Main Street plus the trail.
Wrap it around. You don't have to go through those yards. There's an old tree. You gotta pick it up.
I don't know about the tree. Okay, we're done on this part. Council tonight. I'm gonna recommend we take a 10-minute break. And then we're gonna come back and finish the council meeting. So if you're here to talk about the trail, we're done talking about the trail. When we get to citizen input, we're gonna talk about anything but the trail.
Council has to take any action. I mean, really,
No.
pretty set, is that right? I mean, there's no,
I think,
Right.
kind of motion.
I think the council made a decision that the right would not change. I think that was done at a public meeting. And a month or two ago, the purpose for doing the citizen input and for doing these additional meetings, see if there are modifications that made to the trail that would help accommodate some of your concerns. But I don't think that there was ever an understanding from the council's perspective that the route itself would change.
Right.
We didn't know a few months ago. None of these people.
Well, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 5 after 8. If anybody wants to talk to any of the council members in that 10-minute time, do so. Anybody up here? When we come back? Okay,
7:53.
yeah, 5 after 8. Do I have a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to take a 10-minute break.
Do I have a second? Motion was made and seconded to take a 10-minute break and reconvene. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, citizens. Seriously, thank you.
The idea about the first 2 minutes, right? So this trail.
No, I gotta go to the bathroom. It's
it's a done deal.
Dory. Dory. What? I can hear you. I'm muting myself now.
through the building.
Okay, I'm going to reconvene our meeting. Pardon?
We've used it a long time, we're gonna have to take it away.
Hey, it works. It
I
works.
used it twice in 14 years.
I know.
You just kind of tap it.
Well,
Makes me jump.
We're online, we're,
Feels
we don't wanna.
heart rate just.
okay, moving right along. Let's go back up and let's talk about reorganization of the council. Since Jenny is resigned and
Blessed.
and now our town manager, congratulations again.
Thank you.
We need to elect a new president and vice president. Do I have a motion for a new president?
I would like to make a motion that you step up to the president position.
The motion was made that I move up to presidency. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Rich. Motion been made and seconded. Bill Githens be president of the council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now need a motion for vice president of the council.
I nominate Sally.
Motion was made to nominate Sally Rishardi as vice president of town council. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Bill Ham. Motion was made and seconded for Sally to be vice president of council. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Let's move on to citizen input. Jerry,
I was gonna wait and bring this up next meeting, but, Culver needs a doctor,
a what?
a doctor,
A doctor?
a
Yeah.
doctor. Is there anything the council can do to help bring a doctor into our town?
It's a really good question.
That's an excellent question.
Who do we contact, like St. Joe or?
I think we should contact St. Joe. Probably we'd start with Chad, who's the administrator.
Chad?
I would think at the Plymouth Hospital.
They're probably gonna tell you that they already have Dr. Patterson.
Yeah.
If you go to the clinic right now, chances are you don't see a doctor. I have been to the doctor 6 times, have seen her.
Do they have a nurse practitioner or a
Yes,
physician?
that's what you see. But we need a doctor. And we need a doctor here in our office.
Jerry, is Dr. Patterson just like remote one day a week or something?
She's from Plymouth.
Okay.
And she's with their,
Physician
St.
network.
Joe, yeah.
I also think that she is gone part of the year.
She is.
She's partially retired, so
Sally's right. She
Oh.
travels, her mother's in Florida or something. She has to travel to take care of her mother. We need a doctor in our town.
So it's very temporary that when she is here.
Yes.
Good point. We will look into that. Thank you. Any other citizen input?
I just have a question. Do we know is the downtown office the only doctor's office to everyone's knowledge?
To my knowledge.
The only physician's office.
I just want to make sure. I had to quit going myself. I started going to Argus because I used to be at
It's a beautiful
Jerry's office.
Beautiful office.
Yeah, the only, there's physician offices on the academy campus, but that's not available to the
Separate.
That's not available to the public.
Right.
Right. Good point.
I can call Chad Towner and try to get us a meeting with them and
Good.
ask.
Yeah.
I could also try, I know that the current office is through St. Joe then, but have we ever tried Beacon? Do you know if anyone's ever reached out to Beacon or?
Is it just for the distance?
Could be Freeman, right? And South Bend.
We might take a look at Woodlawn down in Rochester. I know Dr. Benfit, who's Novus and my family doctor, he used to travel to Argus office, but he doesn't do that anymore. And Dr. Benfit does live in Plymouth.
Okay.
Well, I think I think that there's a stumbling block in this, the fact that St. Joe has a lease on that office space where the clinic is now. I think if you brought Beacon or you brought Woodlawn in and so forth, you're gonna have to go through the infrastructure of trying to find another office.
Good point.
And the other.
Yeah.
St. Joe isn't about to give this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they made a significant investment in
Yeah.
building out that office.
And Woodlawn did look at it and decided not to come at one time, but
Okay.
when St. Joe picked up the option.
So our best bet is try to work with St.
St. Joe.
I,
sure.
yeah, that's,
There's an administrator, I don't remember his name. Chad is the CEO of the
Eric
healthcare system.
Eric, yeah,
Yeah,
I know Eric.
okay.
I'll reach out to Eric and Chad and the same message.
Dr. Deary give you any help?
He was part-time for a while and then officially retired, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether he has any influence or not, but I mean, he could say, hey, I made a living here for a number of years.
It seems to me, I remember when we brought Dr. Deary and Dr. Reese into town, it seemed like, didn't our town advertise, send out a feeler like to get a doctor into our town? I think we did, if I remember. But this has been many
Yeah,
years
they
ago.
were, I think they were probably in private practice that then was acquired by the St. Joe Physician Network at
Right.
some point in time. So they were probably here before their practice came under the St. Joe Network.
So they came and opened a private practice.
I suspect that's what happened, but I was not here at the time. But I mean,
Yeah.
just knowing fairly well the Physician Network, I think they
Well-
were an acquired practice.
Yeah, Dr. Howard was here for a number of years and then he moved to Kokomo, or not Kokomo, Logansport. And that was when Dr. Deary came in and took over that practice. But at the time, there was Dr. Powers. He was a osteopathic doctor. And
Do you know if the town advertised for that or?
I don't remember them advertising. But it
Kind of
was,
an intriguing
if they
idea.
did advertise, it probably was Dr. Howard advertising to get someone in. Now, there was Dr. Rosero who was here for a year or two. But I think, they would sell their practice because they were individuals rather than through a hospital.
Yeah, this is before hospitals took over everything.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Dr.
talking,
Faulkner told me they even the hospitals have a hard time recruiting people to the rural communities.
We sure need one. Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's not on the agenda, but since you're here, Jim, do you have anything to say about attorney's report or any update on anything since last week?
Well, at 415 Lakeshore, we're still set for the time, and it's, as I said, online, but it was of interest that it turns out that the fire occurred there is going to be the subject of a grand jury investigation in July, so I think. So, and from everything I know, that will make it interesting for our friend Mr. Van Hawk, I'm assuming. So I have that, I guess.
Good. That's
additional.
Jim, just a question. If he withdrew his bankruptcy case. Now, if we have the sale on the 25th, does he refile the bankruptcy?
As a matter of fact, he can, and I've reached out to the Barnes and Culver attorney about that very prospect, and whether there's something we can do preemptively to avoid that situation. And I have not heard back from Mr. Hattie yet, but I do know that when it was dismissed the last time, and I had that same question, he said, well, I know that if he does, you don't have to wait as long to address the situation. But I said, well, that doesn't do us any good, because if he gets a last minute stay and then we're off, we still have to go through the whole process again. And, you know, you're at least 30, 60 days down the road, 60 days down the road. And so he told me then that he was going to look into it to see if there was something we could do preemptively. I hadn't heard back from him, and after the meeting last Tuesday, that's when I sent him an email and said, if you found anything out, you know, what we would be prepared to probably do something if that's the case.
Yeah.
The last I heard, he was still incarcerated in Kosciuszko County from his threats against the judge, his ex-wife's attorney. And I don't know, I guess there was a large law enforcement group that was involved in picking him up. So.
All right. Thank you very much for that report.
Considering that whole threat thing. Prosecute for that.
Council concerns. Bill?
Nothing?
Rich?
Nothing.
Sally?
Nothing new.
Bill? All I have is Bill Ham, welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate having you.
Glad to be here.
Well, Phil, I will withdraw that. I do have one observation, and I thought it was quite interesting. During that 10-minute recess, other than a minute or two and talking to the NDOT representative, I sat here and no one in the audience bothered to come up and talk about it. Because you mentioned to talk to council members and so forth. I sat here and no one approached me. Now, maybe they don't want to talk to me, but I thought that was kind of interesting that they had an opportunity to talk to. And I think others were around for the council, but I don't remember any. Rich or Sally, did anybody approach you?
No.
No.
Observation. Ginny, do you have anything to add tonight?
No, I will add the doctor's office to my list. I think that's a worthy thing for us to really dig into. It was something I wanted to do as a council person, so we'll put it on the list and
Good.
maybe update you periodically, see if we can get anywhere with that. Maybe we can even solicit some help from our county partners.
Sure.
And
Nothing.
maybe like Dr. Deary or someone like that, I don't know how you go about recruiting that or how we get the hospital to invest in the community with a full-time doctor, but we should at least put pressure on them and ask the questions.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Yes, sir.
Yeah, did you want us to update about the Lake Max 3 by any chance?
Oh, yeah, we could do an update for that.
Jenny was at the county commissioners meeting.
Oh, yes,
Monday, and I'll let
yes.
her
Go ahead.
give her
Yeah.
opinion as to what
So
happened.
we explained to the county commissioners that after the feedback on the design for phase 3 with the academy, after our work session where we met with Doug Bird, that the academy and the town council agreed that we would do an alternative route. But that to do that, we either go through environmental survey, et cetera, and that the academy had agreed with us to give the easements to pay for the upfront work with us. And the county commissioners, before giving us right of way for Sycamore and 16C, would like to see a signed agreement from the academy. And they said, if we do not get the agreement signed, that they give us permission to continue up Academy Road as originally planned. But they made some comments about some of the activity that has occurred on Academy Road with parking spaces, speed bump, that sort of thing, and that they were dissatisfied that those things have been put in the road. So they don't want to give us the right of way on the other roads until we see a signed agreement. So Jim and I are working on that. I've given Jim some information to work on a draft, and then we will send that to Doug and let him take care of getting it signed or giving us feedback. There may be some back and forth. But as you guys know, Doug agreed to that original split of the cost and also giving the easements for that property.
Any update on the application for additional NDOT funding that they may have left in their reserve?
Yes, and that said no.
Okay. Sorry, I asked.
Yeah. We had asked both about taking it out of construction and also is there anything left over for end of year, and they say no to both. So.
Thank you. Karen, do you have anything?
I don't, other than, you know, to those online trying to get a word in edgewise, it was very difficult to hear. And we had multiple people speaking at one time, so we were not trying to be rude at all. It was just a factor of, you know, things were going on going on in the room that you couldn't necessarily see online.
Thank you.
Were we on video?
Yes, but a lot of people called in. There are a lot of people that called in, so they can't see
Right.
what was
okay.
going on. So, and we're just all trying to do our best.
Right. I agree.
We appreciate that.
Hearing and seeing nothing else, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made, seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.
And who would oppose?